This is Bedtime Stories, Concrete Jungle, bonus episode 2. Now, before we get started, I got some things that I need to get off my chest. Y'all trying to rush this story, and that's not possible. Every detail is important. I didn't waste time describing what people were wearing, what they were driving, describing conversations, reading the letters. It's all going to come together. If you rushed through the previous episodes, then I would advise that when you finish this episode, you go back and you watch episodes 1 through 17, including the bonus episodes. Because while they might seem like small details, when the rubber hits the road, they're going to be major details. Getting a story 9 to 12 minutes at a time can definitely be a little annoying. I get it. But no matter how hard I've tried to rush this story, God has been intentional about what and when I record and what I release. This is not just a labor of love for me. This is work. There are lessons to be learned for all of us in the story of Q, Angela, Veronica, Amora, Donovan, LJ, Regina, the Queen Mother, and more. And as I introduce you all to new characters and more details about the lives of the characters we already know and love, I implore you to examine the experiences that you've had, how they've played out, the lessons that God has intended for you to learn, and more importantly, how they've shaped you and molded you and caused you to show up in your relationships. How are you honoring those lessons? How are you healing yourself? How are you trusting God, guarding your heart, and letting Him protect it? Who are you putting in positions that they shouldn't be in? Are you trying to take assignments and turn them into lifetime relationships? We've all been guilty of that. Each and every one of us has had to learn some hard lessons. This is a great opportunity for us to learn from somebody else's mistakes. This is fiction, but it's real life for somebody. Now, Miss Bernie was watching the children while Angela was leading her women's group. So Angela called Miss Bernie and asked her if she could watch them for a few more hours, and Miss Bernie said, "I would love to." Angela headed home, grabbed the envelope with the letters in them, pulled out the envelope that contained letter number 7, reread the note, prayed, examined her heart, and opened the envelope containing letter number 7. And the letter went like this. Angela, one of the things that I've learned is that a person could tell you, "I love you," and then turn around and do something that they know full well will break your heart if you found out. I always thought that if someone took actions that they knew would hurt someone else, then their goal was to hurt them, and that there was no way that they could possibly love the person. Then I became an alcoholic. My addiction not only hurt me, but it hurt all of the people who loved me, and I loved them. AA taught me that people who are hurt themselves and all of the people around them. And until they learn to love themselves, they can't ever love anyone else the way that they should. But that does not mean that they don't love them. I saw this when I walked into the house that your family owns in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Marcus had been shot. He could barely speak. He could barely breathe because he was dying. Despite his pain, the only thing he wanted was for me to take care of you and his son. I tried to convince him that you needed him, not me. I did everything I could to give him a reason to hold on. He knew that he wouldn't make it. He was dying, but he wasn't afraid. What he was sorry. Sorry that he'd hurt you, that he'd brought this pain into your life, into your marriage. And he asked me to tell you that he was sorry, he loved you, and that he wanted you to find love again. In that moment, I realized that this man, who I saw as selfish, who had made some really horrible decisions and had hurt one of the best women that I had ever known, had just sacrificed himself to save you and your son. Because despite it all, he loved you. When I left Albuquerque, I began to pray and ask God what I should do next. He told me to relinquish you and your son to his capable hands. He told me that if I stayed and tried to be your savior, we will become one another's idols, and that is not how he designed love to be. He told me that he had a wife and children on the other side of my obedience, and if I just trusted him, he would give me the desires of my heart. Walking away was the only way for me to follow the path that he was laying out before me, and it was the only way for me to get out of the way of his plan for you. He told me that you would love again, and that he needed to prepare the man that you were destined to spend the rest of your life with, while also preparing you for him. I don't know if that man has found you yet, but I pray that you've done and are doing the work to be ready for him. Love, Q. After Angela finished bawling her eyes out and reading the letter 2 more times, she heard God say, "Read the next one." And it said, "Angela, if you're reading this letter, that means you've read all of the previous ones. That also means that you're almost ready for all that God has planned for you." Angela dropped the letter in shock and was like, "Oh my God, how many times am I going to hear you're almost ready?" She picked the letter up and continued reading. And it said, "Do not read any more of these letters. There are 4 more. You have 3 of them, and your husband has the 4th. When he finds you, he'll give it to you, and then you can open all 4. I pray that you have learned to trust God with your heart, knowing that he will always protect it, even when people don't. Love, Q." Angela folded the letter back up, put it back in the envelope, put all of the envelopes back in the large envelope, walked into the bathroom, washed her face, looked at herself in the mirror, and said, "Lord, I'm ready when you are."